Oh, it doesn't have it in. Good evening. I want to call the Columbia County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. This is our actual annual budget hearing. Let the record show we have every commissioner here. I'm going to open the hearing and ask Mr. Scott Johnson, our county manager, to walk us through.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will do that with the help of Ms. Reese. Just really want to go through just a couple of things. The first item in your packet is a budget summary of the general fund. You will see that our original balance came in at a little over $83 million. And then we started working on the, we do zero-based budgeting in Columbia County, so we're actually going to every single department, sitting down and going over every single need. So when those needs came in, obviously that came in a little bit higher than what our original balance was for the year previously. You will see through the work session adjustments that we actually did adjust the revenues a bit with a 3% growth in the digest. And then after some additional work, we actually looked at the digest, spoke with the tax assessor's office, looked at it historically, and got very comfortable with a 5% growth in the digest. Just for reference purposes, last year was a little over 6, almost 7% growth in the digest. Looks like we're on track to do the same thing again this year. However, we didn't just add that growth to the digest. We'll see a little bit later on, we did balance this budget really for the first time. I think for the first time since I've been the county manager, we have balanced this budget with an anticipated rollback. So we have a budget before you today that is balanced in the general, all budgets are balanced, but we have a general fund budget that's balanced, but includes a millage rate rollback or a tax reduction that's going to be planned when we adopt that in August. I'll get to that in just a minute. You'll see the new personnel that were added. We have been through work sessions, talked about that. The county's continuing to grow, so we have new personnel. Of course, we can talk about any of those individually that we need to. Also, a little bit different this year, we actually budgeted for a COLA. You'll remember that we used to not budget for COLAs. We'd see how we performed in the first quarter actually the second quarter of the budget, and then award COLAs at the same time we did merit. When we did the sweeping changes in salaries a couple of years ago, or I guess a year ago, we said we're going to move our cost of living raises to the budget process. The commission wanted us to look at that. So we've done that. There is a 3% COLA for employees budgeted in this budget. There's some additional funding for the PAC. They are in their second full year, and we anticipate them to start meeting their revenue projections very soon, but there's a little bit of money for that. And then you can see some things that we moved out, $909,260 to the fleet fund. We operate a separate fleet fund. And then you see a couple of other things. At the end of the day, you see that we are presenting you a budget in the general fund of the total amount, total expenditures, $85,953,073, up a little bit from what it was last year. We do have a surplus there. That is the contingency that is necessary. We typically shoot for a 2.5% contingency, and we're very close to that. I'll answer any questions about that sheet before we move to the digest, or anything about the budget that you have before we move to the digest.
I don't have any questions yet.
Nope. I will say for the limited public that are here, I know we have a lot of staff here, but for the limited public, the commission has been working through this budget. We've been working through this process since January, so there should be no surprises. We've been through the nuts and the bolts of the budget a pretty good bit. As far as the digest projection, you will see we're anticipating a 5% growth in the digest. We are anticipating a rollback as well. Our millage rate currently is 5.683 in the general fund, suggesting that we roll that back to 5.651. That will give us the necessary revenues to be able to do what we need to do, and then also put some money back into the taxpayer's pocket. We did reduce the debt service piece just a bit as the digest grows, and as we pay debt off, we have less need for that. So we did reduce the debt service millage piece, and then the fire millage remained the same. Overall, our current millage rate in Columbia County, if you add all that together, is 9.071. I'm very happy to report that of course, we're not to this point yet, but we are anticipating recommending at least an 8.999 millage rate. This will be the first time that I can remember that Columbia County had a total millage rate below 9.
What is a mill worth?
About 6.2 million. There, $6.5 million, right there, yeah. $6.5 million.
Projected.
So the M and O number was about 6.4 when we started reducing it. Help me, Emma.
Yes, it was.
6.4 to 5.6, which
Almost
is
an entire
$5 million.
mill. About $5 million we've cut out of M&O taxes since we've been doing this.
So in essence, we pull $5 million out of the general fund every year by lowering the millage rate, which to me is a good stewardship of courses. So that's ongoing year after year.
Obviously, there's growth in the digest that makes up for that, but the reality is a lot of governments will take the growth in the digest and then not return anything to the taxpayers. This board has taken advantage of the growth in the digest and returned money back to the taxpayers.
So if that digest comes in higher than what we anticipated when it was always bid wars for houses, what?
So we'll look at the rollback rate. I mean, this is an anticipated rate to balance the budget. We'll actually have to have our millage rate discussions in August of this year. Then we will really have the digest. If it was a huge number, we could potentially suggest a larger rollback. Historically, what we've done is we have banked the difference until the next year, and then taking a look at it then. But we'll look at it again in August. If it's a big number, then we'll look at maybe rolling it back even further. Or, I think that this is important to note, or we may add some to the fire millage rate, because the fire millage rate is not adequately funding the fire service. We're having to supplement that with IPTF, and we've almost depleted our fund balance in IPTF. We still have enough money to make it work, and we're balanced, but we don't have any fallback there. So if we had some additional millage, it may be prudent. We may recommend that we apply that to the fire side. You want to add to that, Leanne?
No, that's correct, yes.
Okay.
It was just crazy in the last year with people bidding on houses and just through the roof. So I think we can probably anticipate a little bit larger all coming.
All right, so that, more to come on that. We also included the local option sales tax collection history there. We do use the local option sales tax to offset property taxes, so these funds are going into our general fund, and that allows us to do that rollback. You will see that.
In here, I missed it, I apologize.
Go ahead.
Overall offset of taxes for the lost.
How much is lost offsetting?
How much is lost offsetting the millage rate?
Do you remember how we?
Well, it's a couple of mills, I don't remember the exact number, but it's a couple of mills.
Could I just divide the total number we collect by 6 million?
Right.
Yes.
That would tell me?
Right.
Yep.
Mills, I have to calculate it each year.
Every year.
I can get that to you.
Yeah, it'd be
what
interesting
last year.
knowing, because I mean, the reality is, you get the 5 million that's being pulled from the rollback, but then also with the retail sales, if that's another 2 million, that's 12 million, so 17 million not
On your property
charged
tax.
to property taxes.
Correct. It'd be a much higher number if we didn't have lost. Your taxes would be a much higher tax bill. Any other questions about that? And then the lost history, you got that. And then you've got a summary of the proposed budget there next. This does not include the capital funds, but you can see the summary of the proposed budgets. This gets a little more in the weeds, but I am happy to report that we are balanced in every one of our budgets. So you can see that. You can see the difference in the growth of the individual budgets. Be happy to entertain any questions that you may have regarding any of those funds.
Is the sheriff getting everything he needs?
The sheriff is getting everything that he requested this year. I don't think if we cut anything out. There were a few things that we moved into other funding sources, but the sheriff is getting everything that they need. The fire department, we had to make a couple of adjustments to some of their capital requests because of that IPTF fund. But overall, I feel like we're in a very good position to be able to make sure that we meet the public safety needs.
As an overall budget number, how does our total, our 215 million, how does that compare with counties of similar size, next door or otherwise, that have a similar population?
Yep, so the only way that I really know to look at that, and we've done this actually analysis in the past, Augusta Richmond County came out last year and reported $1 billion budget. They were at $998 million, $999 million. That prompted us to go back and look at ours. And when you look at our M&O budget of what it is, and then really with all these other funds put in there, $215 million is what we're proposing for 23. But if you even add our capital, which they did, they added capital expenses and all that for any given year, we added probably another $135 million. So our all-in budgets are around $350 million a year. If you look at our capital budgets and everything we're spending, around $350 million a year compared to $1 billion. Now, I will say that they offer some services that we don't offer, but every government has the ability to decide what services they want to offer or not offer. But I feel like our citizens are getting a good value for what we're doing with their tax dollars, and we're offering adequate services in our county.
And it's comparable to sister counties that are maybe not next door, maybe in the Atlanta area that has a similar population?
As far as similar population, our budgets are typically lower than those. I know our millage rate is lower. We do a comparison amongst our benchmark counties on a pretty regular basis. And Columbia County, if you look at the
Employee
employees per
numbers.
capita, the overall budget numbers, our millage rate, we win in almost every category. We come in second in sales tax to Fayette County. A lot of that has to do with the film industry in Fayette County. But the rest of, if you look at the rest of them, we're winning in every category.
And how many, what's our number right now? Because at one time we had one employee for 1,200 citizens, or whatever the number, what's?
Not that many. It's somewhere in the 1 to 114, 115.
Yeah.
And then some of our neighbors are one employee for every 60, and I know of some that are one for 40. So they have an employee for every 40 citizens, where ours is 1 to 114, 115. Anything that's 1 to 100 is probably a pretty good ratio to try to attain.
I like the ratio that she just dropped, that one to 1,200.
I had an extra decimal, sorry.
A rounding error, right?
Well, I think the employees that are here in this room will be all that we have left, so y'all get ready to take on extra duty if we do that.
Well, just one thing I'll call out to those, the medical fund. It was just impressive to what our HR department's done in managing our insurance for our employees, because it's basically flat.
Yep.
In this environment, that's a big win.
Done an outstanding job, and like I say, I just got an email from our director of HR a few minutes ago where our insurance provider is they're doing a good job, but they started to slip on a couple of things, and it was a strongly worded email basically saying, get it straight, you do not want to come here and have a meeting with us. I believe that's what he said. Good work. But overall, I mean, if you look at all of our budgets and everything that we have going on, I mean, this is a budget hearing, but if you take a look at all of our budgets, we're in extremely good shape. Our department heads, our division directors, our administrative staff, our elected officials have done an outstanding job. This has been an ongoing process again since January. We've been working on this. I can't give Ms. Reese enough credit for what she does. Don't know what I would do without her in this budget process. She makes it so smooth and so easy. But I can tell you there's been a lot of scrutiny put into this budget. There's been a lot of things that have been discussed and cut, and we're very happy to report balanced budgets.
I want to call out the work you do with the other constitutionally elected officials. I sit in on meetings, and it based on what I read in the newspaper, Joe. There are other counties have issues with their sheriff and their commission, all right?
Oh, yeah.
And in those meetings, Columbia County meetings, there's no such issue. And they all work together with us and understand the big picture of controlling the spending as much as possible, but also providing the service.
I can't thank our sheriff enough. I actually talked to the sheriff this year and said, Sheriff, I really need you to come in you know, as flat as possible to be able to balance this budget this year, and that's exactly what he did. So kudos to the sheriff for working with us, and then, you know, really, it is a team effort.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay, outside of that, you just have your proposed budget calendar next. You will see that we are here at the public hearing today, 5/3. We will actually put the advertisement in our legal organ on the 13th, and it will run as needed. We do have the 17th, Tuesday, May 17th, for a joint budget committee meeting at 4:30. If that's needed, that would only be needed if this board goes through the budget and you find additional things that you want to pull out, or we need to have a public meeting to change what we've advertised, or to go over significant changes in the budget. We have that. Historically, we've not needed that meeting, but we do have it on your calendar. And whether we have that meeting or not, our plan is to present to you the budget at your 6/21 meeting for adoption at the BOC meeting.
So if we have minor changes, do we have to have that meeting? Or what define changes, then, if you don't mind?
You know, I think if you guys decided to drop a department, or to add a department, or to, you know, strike out all capital requests for the entire budget or something like that, we would need to have that. If you had another elected official that had not gotten what they had asked for, that they're asking to add $1 million to their budget, I think that'd be prudent to have that joint budget meeting at that time. But we're not there. As far as what we advertise, we're gonna advertise the budget. Any changes that are from the time it's advertised to the time it's adopted will be discussed at the budget adoption meeting. So the public will be very aware of anything that was, any decimal that was moved from what was advertised to what was adopted. I don't anticipate any. We don't typically have any, but if we did, we could handle that at our budget adoption meeting and not have a joint budget meeting. Agree?
Any other questions? If you have no other questions, we stand adjourned. We'll fire it back up in 13 minutes.